How? What? Why did I just do a Native American greeting? Hi guys, how's everyone doing? It's been ages, it's been a year and a half since I did my last spotlight video, and why not do another one, I thought. Yeah, it's not often that I do them, but I have another one lined up as well, which is strange. Two have come at once, like buses. So, little story, I was contacted recently by a really cool guy called Adam Coburn. Hi Adam, if you're watching, been nice talking to you. From a company called Ensar Oud, and he kindly asked me if I wouldn't mind, you know, doing a little spotlight video on the company. Well, I actually suggested it after he said, can I send you some stuff? So why not? I'm always up for trying new things and talking about them in terms of fragrance. So yeah, a little bit about the company. The company is called Ensar Oud. The guy behind it is Ensar, and their fragrances are completely natural. So this was a really fun experience trying them out. It took me back to when I first started using natural oils when I studied perfumery. Upon research, it seems like Ensar is the oud whisperer or something, I don't know. He sources out and uses some of the most precious ingredients known in the perfume world, completely natural like I said, and Adam sent me about 12 of them, so I have 7 pages of notes, but don't worry, I'm not going to be sitting here talking to you for an hour. The more I read into this, the more I kind of realised some of the stuff I'm smelling is so precious, and it was just really, really cool anyway. So I said yes, so here I am, doing a spotlight on Ensar Oud. I'll put a link to their website below. Go and check out some of the stuff they've got because it is just really cool. There's sandalwood from the 1970s, Mysore sandalwood, and just real cool things. So Adam sent me a mixture of things. He sent me a bunch of their actual blends, their fragrances, and then he sent me a bunch of, and this is what I found really the most interesting, their pure distilled single ingredients. There are ouds from all over the place, and I'll start the video by saying, before I talk about these things, if any of you watch me regularly, you'll know that I'm not the biggest fan of oud. And I've come to realise why. It's because I've never smelled oud in its raw, natural state and in different ways and blended differently. What I've mainly smelled is oud in designer fragrances or sometimes niche. And let me tell you, it's a whole different ball game. I'm still not going to say that I love oud, but it's definitely opened my eyes and it's changed my thoughts about it. So, I do need to apologise as well to both Ensar and Adam because there are things in here, I don't know what they are. It's very intimidating, I don't know what some of the words even mean. But yeah, I just have to say that because I'm probably going to get some of the things wrong, but these are just my humble opinions. Anyway, without further ado, there's 2 boxes. They came in this lovely little box like this, says Ensar Oud. I hope Ensar gets to watch this as well. I've not spoken to you, but hi, this was a fun experience, so thank you. And they came in a little pouchy pouch. Now, the samples are, at first glance, really tiny, but when you do read on about how much they actually cost, you know, you're dealing with real precious ingredients here. Things sourced from the jungles of Vietnam and Cambodia and just all over the place. So, and there's one that's got blue lotus in it, which is so highly sought after and prized. So yeah, they were literally, you know, 0.7 of a mil, I think. But anyway, I'm going to go straight into it. I say straight into it, I've already been talking for 2 minutes. So I haven't got some of them because I've worn them. I've been testing them over about 3 weeks maybe. So yeah, let's do it. So the first one I tried was called Sultan Rose Attar, and it was at random. I just randomly picked it out of the first bag I had, and I really felt like this was a good one to start with because it was kind of like a gateway into the rest of the fragrances, I feel. It's a rose, oud and sandalwood combination. Rose and oud's a very common pairing in the designer world. So I'm glad that this was kind of the first one and my first foray, if you like, into natural oud. I'm going to read you for each of them a little snippet of Ensar's description, because it really does kind of paint a picture and let you know what actually went into it. So this one says, this is an old perfume I formulated years ago. Oud Mustafa, that's the oud that's in this, proudly sits at the forefront, supported by an amazing blend of vintage sandalwood oils, along with vintage rose oil from Sultan Qaboos. I think he was gifted a vintage rose oil from a real sultan. And the mesmerising breath of Rosa Alba. I'm not sure what that is. I could have researched this in depth. I mean, I've told you I've got 7 pages of notes. I could have gone on and on and on and fallen more and more down this rabbit hole, but I have to keep it kind of brief for viewing purposes. Yeah, those are the only ingredients. So, as I said, I'm glad I got to try it first. The oud was a bit of a shock at first because it felt so much more raw. It wasn't as dirty. Yeah, it was a little bit rough, and the first time I'm smelling natural oud, and it was really good. It was nicer than I had expected, though. Anyway, so the oud and the rose were the opening notes. It was a really nice combination. The rose was really rich in this one, and it faded into after a long while, it faded into a gorgeous sandalwood. And I noticed that this kind of beautiful sandalwood was the base of a lot of their fragrances, but that's not a bad thing. It's really lovely anyway. I wrote that the rose in here was almost candy-like in a strange way, and the fragrance was simplistic but to the point, and that's what I really liked about it. It was a good first one to smell. But yeah, the sandalwood I wrote, it really takes me back to when I first smelled natural sandalwood on its own in oil form rather than synthetic sandalwood. The second one I tried was called Iris Noir, and I think this one was possibly my favourite of the blends in particular, not the distillations. We'll separate them in that way. This one was absolutely beautiful, and this is what he says. This is not a waltzing down the Arabian souk scent. It was inspired by spices and bakhor. I don't know what that is. This is a New Yorker's tale on the Hashemite twilight, or Hashemite twilight, that has beckoned his return year after year. The honeysuckle you smell on the way to the Zawiya. There's just so many words. Like I said, I'm really sorry about that. And the Melissa wafting through your kitchen window at sunset. There's thyme in it, orange blossom, rosemary, jasmine as well. Just lots and lots of stuff. And Ensar says that this fragrance is the one that took him the longest out of any of his fragrances to create. So there was a lot of stuff going on. So it says the ingredients include the original Misk al Kathwa, first steeped by my sheikh in 2004, 3 of his most unusual ouds, and a number of rare roux, which I did research a bit, and that's an essential oil that stays quite linear. And then there's selected extracts only available now and then in limited quantities. So I said it's my favourite. This one, when I put it on, 4 people at work mentioned it within 2 hours. What is that? What are you wearing? What's going on? What's the smell over here in the office? This is the one that I'd really like to own, I think. It's got a gorgeous petally opening, really soft and fluffy from this iris feel, and delicate petals are like the backdrop of the fragrance. And it's kind of mingled in with the 3 ouds. The oud really behaves, and I noticed that in a lot of these fragrances. The oud behaves. It's not ever ouch or harsh, or just all you can smell. So it's very masterfully blended, this one. I said this is like the kind of oud fragrance an Arabian fairy would wear. That sounds weird, but I'm going to call it the Fantasyland oud fragrance. It's punchy at first. But when it dries, once all the real beauty of the fragrance kind of disappears and you're in the dry down, it felt like a kind of watery tinged oud fragrance. Yeah, it's not a criticism, but I did say that, I wrote down here, that this one's kind of top loaded. All of the oomph and gorgeousness is in the wet stages, but the dry down is less interesting, I would say, but still beautiful nonetheless. The next one is called Borneo Zen. It says here that it's a joyful waltz along the Turkish rose-petalled riverside beneath a violet sky and the softest sandal breeze. Orange peel, blackberry jam, honeysuckle blossoms, and an all-musk, twirling around an all-musk mountain top with jasmine as well. The fusion between two of the most sought after perfumery ingredients in the world. Bright, light and flirty, Borneo Zen has enough zest to wake you up and seize the day. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this one as well. It says in here, you pick up notes of citrus that you can't quite put your nose on. Not lemon, not orange, not tangerine, not pomelo, and it comes from jasmarine. So it's actually a floral note, but it has a lot of citrusy facets to it, and I really smelt it in this one. It was really cool. It has such a beautiful opening. It smelled to me kind of a little bit like citronella in a way. I'm not sure why, but it did, like a floral citronella type smell in the opening. And there was a gorgeous sensual musk in it that was a tiny bit animalic as well. I made a note on the oud in this one as well. The oud in this one felt like it might be a tiny bit scorched. And I don't mean the oud has been scorched, but the kind of the aroma that it gave off was like something of a scorched oud. It was very unusual with this kind of citronella type feel. It just felt so naturalistic. All of them really did feel incredibly naturalistic and real. I don't know, that was the beauty of trying these out. I wrote that the musk gives it an almost vintagey feel, this one as well. Like French vintage has crossed paths with Arabia, and I really liked that. I thought it was really unusual. And then the dry down to me was the sandalwood that I came to know upon smelling more and more of their fragrances. So a beautiful natural sandalwood was the trail of this fragrance at the end. I also wrote at the end, I'd really like to talk to Ensar about how he works his bases to see how to really make them punch, because that was the biggest struggle I found when creating fragrances on my own. I had such trouble with the bases, they just seemed to peter out too quickly. Anyway, the next one was called Ambra. The vintage Woodylicious super creamy sandalwood alone is worth the price tag. Dotingly aged since 2005, it's his hallmark sandalwood which he uses exclusively in the creation of his fragrances. And it was infused with exquisite beach-combed ambergris located in California in 2006. Only two things in this, sandalwood and ambergris. I found this one to be really simple, but not in a bad way. It was the sandalwood I'd smelled before, beautiful, and I'm not too familiar with ambergris. I must admit that. I've never smelled it on its own to really be able to pinpoint it. I couldn't smell a strong ambergris in this. I'm sure it was there, but it was all about sandalwood for me and my nose. That's just down to my inexperience with ambergris, so I couldn't really say any more about it than that, I'm afraid. The next one is called Blue Calabar. This has 20 ingredients in it. The main one to note is blue lotus oil, which is a really sought after ingredient. I was going to buy it for my final fragrance when I made it. Then I saw the price and went, what? No thanks, I'll leave that one, thanks, I'll try something else. Genuine civet paste, aged sandalwood, and again 3 artisanal oud oils. Yeah, it's the blue lotus in this comes from the Thai countryside. You really get a feel for places and times and things when you smell these. You know, if you're not really familiar with how natural fragrances smell, they might not be to your liking, but it's definitely an experience, and it's different from anything you smelled before. So blue lotus is supposed to be sweet, ethereal, floral, serene and gentle. I said that this one was the most interesting of the bunch and also the most complex to my nose. At first it had a sharp fruity tang and then a medicinal like floral tone as well. The ouds in here were the dirtiest of the ones I smelled, and I don't mean that in a negative way again. It's just oud, you know, it's from the centre of a rotted tree. It's going to have a dirty tone to it sometimes. I got a camphorous tone from this as well, because it's got lavender in it. So there was a lot of different things being thrown at me on this one, and I really liked it. It was really complex, and I said that there's a greenery and it's ever changing. It kept changing and taking me down different paths, so it was just really interesting. I put floral, herbal, oudy, sweet and unusual. And I even smelled something that was a bit like coffee in the dry stages. I don't know where that's coming from, but that's the kind of stuff that I smelled in this one. The next one is called Pink Papua, or Pink Papua, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. This one's got the rarest oud in it, it's from Borneo. Then it's got Pink Lotus and jasmine as well. And then it's also got aged Mysore sandalwood as well in it. So It says, everyone seems to agree, finding Mysore sandalwood is like chasing after unicorns. I love that because I love unicorns. It's got champaka as well, tuberose and sweet olive. I mean, it just keeps going on and on, it's just amazing. I said this one I found unusual as well, to me. I found the oud in here on the harsher side again. It's got that almost medicinal turpentine-like feel. But I can really feel the real woodiness of this, like the bark. I feel like it's, I know oud comes from the centre, but I really felt a bark-like feeling from this one. It was really, really cool. And it felt the most naturalistic out of anything that I'd smelled so far. All of them are natural, but this one really made me feel nature and real sourced ingredients. The sandalwood starts to peek through after a few minutes, and it has a brown feeling, I wrote. And then when the jasmine starts to appear, it kind of roughs the blend up even further. The rougher side of jasmine is shown in this one, the drier side of jasmine. Beautiful, as well as being quite punchy and rough. So the last one I tried from their blends is called Jungle Kinam. It says here, all you need to do is get on a boat and sail along the Amazon River, then hike northward, take in the warm South American humidity, cross the Caribbean, remember the smell of a tropical island. This has got lavender leaves, sage, broom, tea. It's a foresty jungle fragrance. It's got two types, well, just two types of oud in it. There's a couple more, I think. This has got pure resinous Cambodian oud Mustafa, so far out floral forest herbs. Vietnamese woodlands meet the Scottish Highlands. That's what it says here. It's a lot. It's a whole lot. Read the descriptions on their site. So I said, this one is very interesting, in capitals very. This one really transported me to faraway places I've been before. It smelled like scorched jungle fires. It reminded me of another one that I smelled later on. It brought up a memory of me really quickly of when I went to Thailand with my friend for the first time. We spent a little bit of time on this really quiet beach, and the landscape was mountains at the side, and every morning there was a fire that used to come out of there. Somebody obviously lived up there in those hills, and it was the humidity and this scorched fire and the breeze from the tropical jungle patches on the mountains that I really enjoyed the smell of when I was on holiday. And this one, it took me there. It was like a teleporter. It was amazing. I put the oud in here isn't the main star of the show. This is all about the greenery, the smoke and the fire and a dustiness, and I love it for the imagery that it gave me. It was really, really cool. Super, super impressed. I love it. So Ensar, woo! I also wrote, and I'm not sure that you guys might like this, the Ensar Oud, but it reminded me of a fragrance I'd smelled before. There's a company called Slumber House. They've got a fragrance called Norn. So if any of you guys that watch me have smelled Norn, it smelled a bit like that. It's a fiery greenery, smoky greenery. Harsh but beautiful. Loved it. So moving on to the distillations now. This is when, I tried these after I'd already tried all the blends. And let me tell you, this is when I really started to feel I'm smelling something special here. It was quite an experience. I keep saying that, but it's true. I really felt nature more than any other fragrances I've ever smelled in my life. And these distillations are single ingredients that are so precious and complex on their own that I'm sure Ensar uses them in other blends, but on their own they were just a joy to smell. Even if I wouldn't say they were wearable, I'm not sure they're meant to be, but it was just an experience to get that kind of smell into my brain. And really, these are the ones that really transported me to places. So I think Adam sent me 5. Thank you, Adam. I really feel honoured. I'm not going to lie. So the first one is called Kinam Rouge. This is an oud from Vietnam, and it's so multifaceted. It throws out notes of tobacco, cherries, decadent tobacco is how he describes it. So I wrote, this is an oud from Vietnam. At first sniff, I smelled the scorched wood type of fragrance I've smelled before, same as the jungle one. But it changes quickly. This was such a rich, rich smell. It was spicy. It smelled a bit like cloves at points as well. It's so beautifully complex. I even wrote wowzers in highlight. Considering it's not a fragrance or a blend, it's so complex and lovely. There's a warmth in it, there's a smoothness that comes from this tobacco-like feeling, and it's right in the core, there's a smoothness. And I said I've never smelled anything like it before. It's spectacular. It feels so raw and natural, nothing like any oud. It's hard to believe that it's even an oud. That's what I mean when I say smelling these completely changed my impression of what oud is. It's like I fell into a rabbit hole of oud and I went into Wonderland somehow. The cherry-like odour took me by surprise. It smells like a fruity oud, and then I put, it's fruit! Such a geek. It's ever-changing. This one, it just kept bringing out new things. I also wrote that I smelled eucalyptus in it sometimes. So there was a greenery as well going on. I said my nose isn't qualified to identify the scores of aromas going on, but whoa. The dry stage really makes me think of a smoking temple in the middle of a forest. It's a full-on transitioning fragrance from a single ingredient. It's so impressive. I absolutely loved it. The next one was the one that got me a bit emotional. It's called Santel Royale. And upon speaking to Adam a little bit more this week, I realised that I have actually been lucky enough to smell actual, real Mysore sandalwood from the 70s. And it's kind of like on my perfume bucket list to be able to smell that. So Adam and Ensar, you've made this little perfume boy's dream come true. It epitomises new perfumery in sandalwood. That's what it says here. You get a vibrant dancing sandalwood perfume composed of a single ingredient. Yeah, this one says here, and I loved this, it says, the scent is so vibrant it almost verges on animalic. He also wrote that it vibrates, and I love that description. I think that's very cool. I wrote, it's like a sandalwood that I've never smelled before. It's like nothing I've ever smelled. So pure, unadulterated. I felt honoured by it. I said it's the creamiest sandalwood I've ever smelled. It's got a herbal spark in there as well, somehow. Well, most sandalwoods are kind of powdery, subtle, I think, and creamy. This one had so much more vibrancy. I said it's got more body, it's got more grit. So pure, but so interesting. It was like a sandalwood experience all on its own. And that's one of the ones that I actually haven't finished using up. I used most of the other ones up, but I kept some of that back because I can't just use that up willy-nilly. I need to keep it back for just sniffage sessions, just to smell on my own. It was glorious. The next one was called Oud Yusuf. This one was quite unusual as well. It says here by Ensar, natural perfumers have despaired of creating the scent of lilies. Lilacs are an even harder note to capture, and then he tells you how you can possibly make it. But Oud Yusuf smells so much like these sumptuous florals, you think it was distilled from lilacs and lilies rather than oud. There's an apricot tone, a honeydew. So what did I say? I said another oud with a massive twist. I smell cloves in this one as well. It's kind of like a Christmassy type oud. And when I put it side by side with the next one I'm going to tell you about, it feels like it had an almost gourmand, biscuity type tone to it. Strange. The dry stage was completely different as well. It's hard to believe it's oud again. There's a candy-like floral smell that comes out of it. And there's a gourmand that comes out of it as well. It's like a fruity floral smell. And this was the one that really clinched me where I said, this one has completely changed my opinion on oud forever. The next one is called Borneo 2000. This one says it smells like you've got fresh mahogany peeled from bark. A cedarwood kind of tone. Moist brown sugar, honey and maple syrup. He said this is one that you could wear going out on a night out. It's got musk meets frankincense, and yeah, a lot of stuff again. So I said this one again feels like a very foresty type smell. Full on naturalistic foresty wood, like a rocking chair, like a smoky fireplace. I said I feel like I'm a child again and climbing trees. It's gorgeous in a very natural way. I can imagine this one blended with other ingredients would make for a magical forest fragrance. There's a green resinous tone in here as well. Think of tree sap. It's a very full-on fragrance, this one. Amazing. And the last one is called Green Papua or Papua. So it says, here's your chance to dig your nose into that aboriginal, wild and uncut green aroma that served as a definitive guide to many an oud lover over the years, with a ripple effect on the oud world like few others can boast of. So this one was distilled from live and vibrant gyronops, legally harvested and incense grade, aged for 2 years to give you an oil that's as pristine green, as rich as minty floor, as if you're back in 2004, smelling green Papua all over again. I wrote, wow, Bali. I've been to Bali before, and this one was another one that transported me again. When I went to Bali, on the streets outside lots of shops in Bali, they have these offerings to gods. They're like incensey leaves that they burn. They have leaves and offerings with incense sticks in them. And yeah, this one, that's what I smelled. I was transported to Bali, and I don't know why. I know it's not from Bali at all, but I went there. It was burning incense, greenness, medicinal and herbal again. And this one smelled ancient. It just felt really old to me. I felt like I was smelling something so real when I smelled this one. I felt like I was smelling another time and place completely, I put. This one really moved me. This one was the one that I think moved me probably the most. And I don't know why. It's probably because it's connected to the Bali thing, but this one again, yeah, incensey, green, smoky gorgeousness. I loved it. So in conclusion, I mean, I know it's only short notes on each, but if any of you guys are really interested in oud, if you collect fragrances that are in that kind of realm, you know, I suggest you go and check them out. Go and look at the stuff that they've got. You can buy all different kinds of levels. Go and see it. Go and check them out, even if to read Ensar's descriptions, because even reading them, you kind of get transported to other places. So yeah, if you want to get 10% off of anything on their site, put ouch in your comments when checking out, and you'll get them. So anyway, I'm Ouch on my. This was a really fun experience. Click my logo down there to subscribe, and I'll speak to you guys soon for another review or spotlight video. I have another one coming up, so thanks for watching as always, guys. And Adam, thank you so much. Please pass on my well wishes and thanks to Ensar as well. I hope he gets to watch this. So thanks, guys. Bye.